Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. And today we are back with the third installment of the check-in series with my amazing co-host, Danica Smith. Danica, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I can't believe Check-in Series is on its third episode. The quarters are
I know.
rapidly moving along.
I know, I know. And for anyone that hasn't joined us for one of these check-in series, just so you know, we bring you every single quarter key trends in the market from a guest experience perspective, from a guest behavioral perspective, and it's about understanding where the market is and where it's going. And that's all down to Danica's amazing expertise, knowledge, and standing in this part of the industry. So, Danica, thank you so much for joining me again. I'm looking forward to this one because
Oh,
I was looking into the brief that you sent over, and it's the title was guest experience paradox.
mm.
And the first thing that I saw, and I know you'll probably know this, is the contradictions between the things that guests seem to want and also want at the same time, and yet both things are complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything for anyone watching this part of it, but there is complexity to this, and I know that you're amazing at unwinding that complexity and making it easy to understand. So I'm looking forward to a bit of an education piece here, but yet again, I'm excited about diving into this. So I'm going to shut up, take it away. The guest experience paradox. What's it all about?
Well, thanks, Tom. And what a paradox era we are in. I feel like every episode, I come in and I just highlight how overwhelming it is for hoteliers
Sure.
and operators to navigate. And the overwhelming is overwhelming because, yeah, it is very contradicting. So, and I'm here just to kind of like share the data.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I have my own assumptions, but yeah, it's kind of just shining a spotlight on these different trends. And it's really, I urge everyone listening to go away and have these discussions, with your teams of who do we want to be and what do we stand for? Because
Yeah.
you've got two different paths
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
contradict each other. So, just high level summary, what we're going to dive in today is really the guest experience paradox.
Yeah.
Guests want to travel, they want to be faster, but they want to be slower. We want we want to be more digital, but we want to be more human. We
Yeah.
still want to be highly personalized, but we want it super simple.
Right.
And that's where the paradox and confusion comes in. So let's get into the first one, which obviously has to be around AI.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know AI is the new front door to travel. We know travelers are increasingly using AI to plan trips, compare options,
Yeah.
build itineraries. The prompts are getting longer. So the world of SEO, of which I'm not an expert in, has completely blown up. And we understand that. So I have a few stats and data trends here, which is
Amazing.
fascinating. So when we look at actual search terms around AI travel assistant, AI concierge on Google, it's grown 350% year on year.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and searches around AI flight bookings have spiked 315%. So it's pretty significant. We know
Yeah.
the data is all there. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about this point. We know we're using AI to look, book, search, and
Absolutely.
travel.
Yeah.
But I did want to bring in some experience of what I've seen this quarter with my clients around the exec team, both hotel clients. So both of these hotel brands, independent brands, have really fantastic book direct strategies. Not
Okay.
my area, can't claim that success, but they're doing really well. They have their conversions are up year on year. Their PPC, traditional SEO, it's all working well. They're making more and more money from their direct website. Winning,
Sure.
tick, that's what you want. So I sit in a management meeting, and obviously I'm there to look at the guest experience side. And the CEO is grilling the CMO of this hotel brand, like, where are we ranking on the LLMs? Where are we searching and where are we
Sure.
ranked? And I just thought, oh, here we go again. Somebody's been to a conference and heard the importance, which is great. It's really important to be aware of these new ways of doing things. But if the basics are still winning, let's not change and focus. And, the hour and a half management meeting, that conversation around where do we rank on LLMs dominated so much more time when actually, as a business, it was not needed to have that much airtime, you know?
Sure.
And that just comes back to the overwhelm of leaders, you know, of how are we getting directed and focused, and let's just keep it. What metrics? What are our metrics? What's important to us? What's
Yeah.
important is that we have good guest experience and we're making money. It's not where we search on LLMs. So just a little bit of a caution there. Let's bring it back down to the basics. So,
Sure.
and I've seen that conversation happen a lot around AI and LLMs and search.
Well,
But it's
just on that. So
yeah,
if so, what? And again, this is only what from what I'm taking from it. If you've got the basics nailed, then sort of really jump into
yeah,
this, new strategy stuff. But if they're not, then the new strategy stuff doesn't really mean a lot unless the basics
yeah.
are done. That's
If you've
that's
still got
basically the
a
point, right?
yeah, if you've still got a crap website, it doesn't matter where I come to. I'm still not going to convert because your website's still crap.
Yeah, if
Whether
your
it's AI
content's
that sent
rubbish,
me there
yeah,
or
yep,
Google, it's still so yeah, it's just a reminder
yeah,
of
okay,
like, yeah, AI search, it's a thing. So we know it's a thing, but be careful, hoteliers.
yeah,
Now, the
okay,
contradiction from a guest experience side is we know AI search is on the rise, 350% from Google year on
yep,
year. But there's now we're seeing an AI trust gap, both
yeah. Well, I
internally
was
and externally. Yeah.
this one got me because I was like, okay, that's interesting because AI is everywhere and everything and whatever, but now there's a bit of a question mark. What's what,
Yeah. Look, I think the question mark comes to when a credit card is in your hand. Let me ask you, Tom, have you ever had AI pay for something on your
No,
behalf?
no,
And that's where the trust gap comes.
interesting.
And let's also remember, like, I know you've got a global audience. I'm speaking very much from the UK and EMEA. Like, the access that we have in Claude and in OpenAI is very
Yeah,
different. We do not have the full buy-in cycle. I saw from Stripe they did a really cool e-commerce agentic AI presentation with Etsy of credit card in hand does booking. You can't do that at the moment. You know,
right,
we
okay,
know Booking.com, Accor, I think it was Accor, they've entered that chat. It's in the US. We
okay,
still have
okay,
the regulation is still restricted here. But what we're seeing is that there is the AI trust gap. So Expedia recently surveyed more than 5,700 travelers across the UK, US, and India. Now, bearing in
yeah,
mind, the three have different regulations around the
sure,
use of AI and what they can and what they can't do. So I
okay,
thought it was a very interesting, nice global spread. 53% are comfortable letting AI suggest travel options. We know that.
yep,
42% would let AI monitor prices and tell them when to book. And
yeah,
40% are happy for AI to build their mind an itinerary. However, when it comes to the most important step, getting the money involved, 66% say they would not trust AI to actually buy or book something on their behalf.
interesting.
And 68% said they still prefer to book with a trusted travel brand. So,
Hmm,
yeah, it's
interesting.
fascinating. You know, it's like we want AI, help me. Absolutely. Recommend something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Spend my money. No.
Do you know what? I think I'm the same. I
hmm
think if I'm being completely honest, I've built itineraries with AI. I've tracked prices with AI from for certain times a year when to travel and whatever or that sort of thing. I don't know if I would go on
hmm
to the next stage of that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put in my details into the ether. I mean, in a way, I do that already with certain websites. They already have my card details and whatever. So I guess it's not that much of a leap, but I don't know. I feel a bit
There's the
funny about
trust.
it.
Yeah, it's the barrier. And let me ask you, Tom, what's your biggest concerns? So why wouldn't you?
Do you know? I think it might be from a fraud thing.
Yeah,
Like if it's out there, because we're still, relatively speaking, it's still within its infancy from a
yeah,
consumer usability perspective,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I, as a, I don't know who might be able to get hold of that.
Yeah, yeah, and exactly. And you represent all of Expedia and probably all of us. You know, Expedia found 57% of those survey respondents worry about losing control.
Okay.
57% about privacy and 56 about misuse of their personal data. So
Yeah.
I think what's important here for hoteliers is to really understand that trust is now becoming part of the guest experience. So,
Hmm.
if you are entering AI in your booking process, looking at LLM search terms, etc., you really need to take it a step further and understand that yes, AI can help people find you and make travel easier to discover, plan, etc. But you really need to, as a brand, be able to give your guests the confidence that if something goes wrong, a real person will sort it out, and you're there
Yeah.
with fraud, privacy, data
Yes.
protections. That boring stuff, which let's be fair, in the past was quite boring, now
Yeah. Yeah.
needs how, as a hotelier, how do you make that interesting and educational to help break down that trust barrier? And I think that's, as marketeers, as the CIOs, it's like, how do you bring that into the booking journey of
Sure.
your policies, your AI protection? There's the new AI data law that's come out in EU this month. So there's a lot that we need to educate the guests and make it interesting.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's paradox number one.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
AI, yeah. So how do we make it more trusting? Paradox number two,
Yeah. Yeah.
which of course leads on to, technology. We want it. We want the automations,
Yeah.
but we still want the human connections. And this is becoming more and more valuable. So
Yeah.
as the automation grows, as AI, seamless kind of booking, maybe in the future, certainly looking and searching, as that all takes part, the demand for authentic human interaction
Yeah.
continues to rise. And this is where guests are really placing a lot of emphasis and money on and value on local hosts,
Yes.
guides, meaningful personal service. So we touched on this last time when it was all about, how can you bring your chef into part of the F&B
Yep.
experience? What is on your doorstep? How are you bringing in, the local granny to do a crochet course? And that trend continues. So actually, TripAdvisor's called this its big 2026 trend of humanized hospitality.
Okay.
There's some stats here. Bookings on TripAdvisor's platform for experiences that involve local guides and hosts are up 38% year on year. Now, let's remember that's year on year this quarter. If you were looking at, the Q1 2026 versus Q1 2025, we saw a huge spike. So
Right.
it just shows that the growth is continuing. Yes, it's slowed down, but it's still continuing.
Yeah.
And also, this is impacting the guest experience as well and the sentiment of guest feedback. Reviews that positively mention local guide, local hosts are up 20% year on year. Um,
Right. Interesting.
so we know that AI is still not there to replace hospitality. It's
No.
removing the things that stop people being hospitable.
Yeah.
What is interesting here is this really blurs the line between hotels and short stay rentals.
Okay. All right.
Because short stay rental market, and if you've ever been to an STR event, that the hosts are completely different to hoteliers. That this is what they've built, and so I think they don't have as much access to the technology infrastructure, although they do. I think it's easier for short stay rentals to kind of deliver this personalized, authentic, come to my property than it might be for, a branded hotel.
Okay.
So I
All right.
think this is interesting as also as an industry of like guest experience. When I book a property, STRs are now becoming part of that hotel. It's like a whole nother concept.
Yeah.
Just look at the booking, when you look at booking.com, it's, you're looking at a hotel and somebody's apartment and a camping next door. It's all
Yeah.
in one. So yeah, I think this is also important for hoteliers just in this scheme of being searched in AI, and back to that conversation that you're really in your reviews pulling out these human aspects, these localized aspects, the guides, the tours, the chefs, the personalized experience that make it special and unique is still really important.
So that's again, that's something that I definitely value as a traveler because,
Hmm.
I do all these things. I do jump onto, booking.com. I do jump onto this or that or the other. And I am of course, looking for that authenticity. And I'm almost finding myself deliberately wanting to step away from the sort of AI capabilities. As I said
Yeah.
before, I've definitely searched with AI and I've done all this sort of thing, but I've actually cut. This is actually something so recent. I said to you off camera, I'm going to Spain another
Yeah.
few weeks, right? At first, I did use ChatGPT and some other models to be able to look at different packages and this sort of
Hmm.
thing. I ended up doing it all manually. But the thing that I really enjoyed was actually I felt like I was back doing it as I used to. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah. Yeah.
different things and pulling things together and getting the best deal and this sort of thing and going direct to websites, obviously. And I actually found myself sort of going, well, sod that platform. I might just do this all myself. Is that
Hmm.
where this sort of thing is going? Are people sort of like liking to get their hands stuck in again or something?
I think so. Look, it's also, I always take it back to my mum. My mum, we should bring my mum on the,
Oh, I love
on a
that.
podcast and get her to represent the fresh guest because it's also like, I think we focus so much on like AI versus humans. What are we doing?
Sure.
And as a guest, like we don't even know when we're interacting with AI and when we're not. Look
Yeah,
at voice AI and how that's changed. So
sure.
the trend that we've just looked at in terms of making things really authentic
Yeah,
sometimes with voice AI, you don't really know what's a person and what's AI, of
it's
how
true.
it's
Yeah,
totally changed in the last, I'm talking 3, 4 months.
yeah.
There's some really, really cool, and then the way that the languages can switch and the tone of voice. And so, yeah, let's watch this space of
Mm,
maybe it's not AI versus human, but maybe it's more like the human aspects of the
yeah, okay.
localized that I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's see.
Well, I guess, yeah, exactly that. We'll see in another few months, won't we? I
And that's
guess.
where the paradox could, at the moment, it's saying this, but maybe, I feel like I could be like, one of those when you talk to the spirits and
Yeah, yeah.
the metal rods cross, that's how it
The
is.
sort of true. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. They're
yeah.
like, yeah. Um, so again, AI, human at the moment, it's saying we want both in
Yeah.
different ways. And I really don't know what that looks like in the next quarter, in the next year.
No,
So
interesting
on to
stuff.
the next paradox. Oh,
Yeah.
fast, slow.
Which got me. I was like, what?
Oh, but the thing is when you look at it as a personal guess, like I can understand it, and it
Sure.
is kind of like we want everything now. It has to be seamless. The booking process has to be 2 clicks or whatever the stat is. We want it
Yeah.
fast, but when we arrive, we want it slow.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's basically what this is all about. So some interesting stats as well around the guest journey as it's getting compressed. And I would love to hear from the hoteliers.
Okay.
The data's showing this, but if anyone's got specific evidence from their properties, I would love to know. But and there's something that's really important that hotels pay attention to, unfortunately, adding to the overwhelm. But Expedia's latest Q3 insights that was published this month found 20% of searches in Q2 happened just 0 to 6 days before the travel. So that
Wow.
booking
Okay.
window is
Tiny.
so compressed, so
Wow.
compressed. Yeah. So, and it's even more pronounced here in Europe as well. So the share of searches happening within that 0 to 6 day window increased 25% quarter on quarter.
Wow.
So people that are searching are looking to book within a week. And at the other end of the spectrum, Expedia's research showed that searches from that 91 to 180 days windows in advance of the stays dropped by 30% year on year. So this is changing the guest journey pretty
Jeez.
dramatically because, we love drawing this beautiful guest journey. You dream, you research, you book, you
No
anticipate
one is that big.
pre-arrival and stay. Exactly. All of that is now happening in less than 6 days. So
Wow.
this is really interesting and again contradicting when we think of which we've spoke a lot about, Tom, over the last year of, it's
Mm.
not just about room revenue, it's about the
No.
experiences, it's about, the F&B, the spa, it's about the local hosts. How, as a hotel, do I get that to you in that pre-stay communication arrival when it could be 3 days? So that changes everything.
The only way I can think of it genuinely is the content that they're looking at when they're scrolling. does it have this? Does it have that? And if it's not, because that otherwise, I don't. They're not going to read all that, are they?
No,
They're not. Do
no.
you know what I mean?
And this is exactly where, like now, hotels' digital experience has to be really, really personalized to me, smooth, easy, because reality is
Yeah,
data's showing us I'm searching on Monday, I'm booking on Tuesday, and I'm arriving on Friday. You even that's such a tiny window. Like hotels don't have the time to send me an email that's not relevant to me, or
yeah,
we
yeah.
just so a lot
Do,
more
do,
pressure.
is there any data on? Because again, the people that are now booking are stepping in from sort of Gen Z and all this sort of stuff. Is that a characteristic of the younger traveler where spontaneous travel is a lot, or is this across the board? Is there
Don't
any sort of
know.
a?
It's across the board from Expedia, but I shall take my homework
Well,
and go and
I'm just
explore and
thinking.
see if there's any kind of like generational data behind that because Expedia's
Hmm,
doesn't go into that level of detail. That comes
interesting
back to
though.
as a hotel, that's what you need to be understanding because
Yeah,
you've now got a tiny window to understand the guests.
yeah,
Who are they? How old are they? What are they wanting? What is their purpose of their stay? Why are they here? Build the excitement,
yeah.
communicate, personalize, upsell, set the expectations all within 6 days. So
Good luck.
yeah, good luck, guys. So I think this is really important. And look, we now have the technology, we've got guest
Yeah,
communications, we've got amazing AI in terms of creating itineraries as a hotel.
yeah.
You no longer, I mean, that was one of my first jobs as a marketing assistant. I would go on to like, London Time, what's it called in London? The Time,
Oh,
what
yeah,
events are
yeah,
going on, create the blog post,
yeah,
that's all gone. So I think as a hotelier and operators listening to this, the takeaway here is, you might have designed your guest journey around how guests behaved in the past. You now need to design that guest journey
yeah,
of that short booking window that continues to decrease, and you
yeah,
have to really think about how do you drive that loyalty pre-arrival when they only found you 5 days ago.
yeah.
So booking windows are shrinking, speed of relevance to booking is becoming part of their guest experience. So
Wow.
that's part one of the contradiction. Part two of the contradiction is when the guest arrives, they
Yep.
want the complete opposite trend. It is all about slow travel.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love this because it perfectly demonstrates the contradiction right
Well,
there.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
happening,
Yeah.
it's like, look, but communicate, build excitement, personalize, get me there. And then it's like, okay, slow travel has reached an all-time high. So
Right.
there's some stats here from Google. Search
Yeah.
interest around slow travel Italy, for example, has jumped 100% in just 1 month. Um,
Wow.
and month-long hotel stay was one of Google's top trending searches
A
around
month long.
long. Yeah, who I definitely want that booking as a hotelier.
Wow. And
So again,
that's gone up 100%, did you say?
no, so
That's gone to
slow travel has jumped 100% in 1 month, and then month-long hotel stay was one of Google's top trending searches around long travel. So
wow.
yeah, so that we really need to think about the contradiction here. Everything
Yeah.
surrounding travel is faster. AI can build the itinerary in seconds, digital check-in in seconds,
Hmm.
mobile keys removes the keys,
Yeah.
chatbot answers immediately. Booking gets faster, but the holiday and the guest experience itself,
Slow.
yeah, people, they want fewer destinations, they want fewer itineraries that are packed. It's
Yeah.
all about the connection, the time, the pace, the enjoying, stopping, looking up and smelling the roses.
Mm. Do you know what? Again, I can relate. I can
Yeah,
relate to that. I do
yeah.
want a process that is easy at the front end, and I do want a holiday that is really slow. I do.
Yeah.
That's
And maybe
yeah,
it doesn't have to be so contradiction. Maybe the two go hand in hand. It's all about less queuing, less admin, less searching, less
yeah,
friction in order to give time back to the guests so they can spend it having a 3 hour lunch and enjoying the
yeah,
company, whether that's a business lunch or a family lunch, when,
yeah,
they can just sit by the pool and do absolutely nothing. Like, instead of having to queue at the pool bar. So, I
yeah,
think whilst these are very contradicting, I think they complement in a staggered way very,
yeah.
very well.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's almost, and we've always said this, or I've always said this to you, the stats are almost sort of, well, obviously that would be the way it is, but it's
Yeah,
about highlighting the things that are actually going
yeah.
on. I would never have thought that a month-long booking was one of the top searches for
I
Google.
know, I know. But I don't know, and I would love to now, and this is always the frustration that I have between the data that comes out from Google, Booking, Expedia, the industry data, and then bringing in the actual revenue. There's such
Yeah,
a disconnect.
yeah,
Like, I want to know out of those search terms, is that people just depressed and exhausted and like, oh, the
yeah,
World Cup's finished now, what am I going to do?
yeah,
Searching, like I want to know, is length of stay increased for certain properties in
yeah,
Europe? Like, so that's my request to the audience is like,
yeah, yeah,
this is what the data's showing us from, Google, Expedia, TripAdvisor, Booking, but
yeah.
what is it actually looking like on property?
What's the conversion? Yeah, what's the
Yeah,
conversion
what
on
is
that?
that
Yeah,
conversion?
yeah,
So then that kind of brings us back to, so we've done the final one, which is,
yeah,
um, oh, okay, so we've done slow travel. Sorry, I'm
yeah,
just,
yeah.
which is also contradicting the rise of less. We want more,
Yes,
but we want less.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. The rise
So
of less.
the rise of
Okay.
less, exactly, exactly. So Booking.com has identified in their 2026 trends called hushed hobbies. I love their
Hush
names as
hobbies.
well. Hushed
Oh, we've
hobbies.
loved these all the way through this year, to be
I
totally honest
know,
with
they're
you. Some
so
of them have been
funny.
brilliant.
So
Okay, go on.
whoever comes
Sorry.
up with this at Booking and TripAdvisor and Google, like,
You're spot on.
they're definitely Gen Z. Hushed hobbies. So again, Booking.com's numbers tell a really interesting story here.
Okay.
43% of travelers say that they would take a holiday specifically to feel closer to nature.
Yeah.
25% want to pursue quieter hobbies whilst they're away, and 73% would consider fishing and bird watching. So hushed
Okay.
hobbies is literally shh,
Yeah. Quiet stuff.
very quiet, silence the mind.
Yeah.
You know, you're going on a boys' holiday golfing. I know, it's
Yeah, that
pretty
ain't gonna be
silent
quiet.
but is it not? I don't know. Like sometimes on the golfing, I've never
I
golfed, so
think
I
on a
don't know.
golf course, yes. I think off, probably not. But yeah, I
Yeah,
know
but
exactly what you mean.
go back to your holidays 10 years ago. It was like full on, lads
Yeah,
or
yeah.
10, but so yeah, and 69% of Booking.com's research would consider staying somewhere where foraging in the local environment
Uh,
forms part of the experience. So
yeah, okay.
a build on of this slow, it's also less. We want
Yeah.
nature, we want quiet, we want bringing it back to the basics.
Yeah. And that again
Um,
makes sense. It
yeah,
does
we're
make sense.
overstimulated.
With the rat race that everyone's on these days and the constant economic global situations that continue to hit us, who doesn't want to escape for a little while and have a bit of quiet?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I've gone into my mindset coaching because the people that I work with, the leaders in hospitality, are just overstimulated and overwhelmed to beyond exhaustion,
Yeah,
dating burnout every other week,
yeah,
the emails, the notifications, the news, the AI, the screens, the decisions, constant decision fatigue, the
yeah,
noise. It's just, that's not how we want to experience our travel anymore. We don't want another app, another message, another touch point. They're needed, another amenity. They're needed, but they need to be like seamless and quiet. It's almost
yeah.
like just like, Wi-Fi in the last 15 years,
Hmm.
in order to have Wi-Fi, we know guests don't want to go through hoops to get Wi-Fi.
No,
It's almost the same with everything else when it comes to that guest journey. It all needs to run quickly and quietly in the background. So as a
yeah,
guest, I can just decompress from life.
absolutely. Well, do you know what? It corresponds to one of the oldest, I guess, pieces of hospitality in its truest nature, right? Is I've always thought this as well because obviously I used to work in a hotel, but I used to see it. But if you're in a restaurant, your water or your drink is running low. It doesn't take someone to hold their hand up. Doesn't take someone to get someone's attention. It's that hospitality of just coming over, filling the glass, and disappearing again.
Yeah, yeah,
It's that quiet attention to detail that will just allow that guest to continue to just
yeah.
be in the moment, you know?
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
in the past, that has always been associated to like luxury,
Yes. Yeah, it has.
luxury hospitality. But now it's almost like essential. Our nervous
Yep.
system cannot take, excuse me, can I have more water?
Yeah.
We're just frazzled. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the take here for hoteliers is again to continue to look at like where can I remove the friction? Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
unnecessary communication points can I take off the guest journey?
Yeah.
Where can I remove the cognitive load? And look, we're talking about guest experience. It's really important you do this with your staff, because
True.
all human, we're
Yeah.
talking about guests. Guests represent humans. We're all the same. Our nervous system is frazzled regardless of where we are in life. So,
Yeah.
whilst I'm talking about the guest experience, it's also really important that you're looking at that from, yeah, your staff of like, how can I remove that cognitive load, overwhelm, stress, and help just make everything feel simpler from a guest experience and then internally as well because yeah sometimes it's about making life feel easier for a few days for the guests when they're with you.
Yeah. And also, it's an age-old thing, isn't it? If your team are in a good place, they're going to perform better.
Absolutely, that's one
Just is
concept.
what
There's
it
no
is.
paradox there. that's
No.
that's
And
like
you know
A plus
what?
B. Yeah.
Weirdly enough that I'm on this podcast, but if your team are in a better place, they're not going to contact someone like me. so,
Exactly.
so,
Or me as a mindset coach dealing with stressed out leaders.
there
It's
you go.
ironic. But that's also what we want. That we do what we do because we want people to be living their best lives. So
Correct.
I do think though that everything that we've spoke about today, Tom, in terms of that guest paradox is like really understanding, well, okay, Danica, I'm a busy, hustling London hotel in Victoria. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
There's definitely some takeaways that you can still do,
Yeah.
and whether it's like having a quiet brunch, even little things like the music in the background, maybe that's what you can change. We haven't really even spoke about the F and we spoke about it last time, but Zempic and F&B and how that's changed.
Yeah.
That's also kind of a reflection of like simple, quiet. We just want less is more. So how can we, you know, and let's see, maybe in 6 months' time, we're all going to go back to like loud brunching, big brunches, big opulent guest experience stays. I mean, that's still there for some people
Bring
for
the
sure.
noise.
Yeah, let's see how that changes. But right now, the data is showing we want less. So my
Yeah.
biggest takeaway for this quarter is operators keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing
Yeah.
well, but be aware, we're entering the age of the guest experience paradox. So to summarize, Google, we know from
Yeah.
Google AI
Yeah.
travel assistant up 350%. Yet Expedia tells us 66% do not trust AI to book for them.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor tells us that local human-led experiences are up 38%, whilst technology becomes increasingly important in that guest journey.
Hmm.
Expedia tells us the booking windows are getting shorter, but Google tells us that slow travel has never been higher. And Booking.com tells us travelers increasingly want quiet and simplicity in an incredibly noisy, stressed out world. So, guests want
Wow.
technology and people. We
Yeah.
want speed and slowness. We
Yeah.
want personalization and privacy. And we want connection and space. So, yeah, I don't think it's about hotels having to choose one or the other. It's about understanding how the two fit in together and what the guests
Yeah.
need, when and where. So it's kind of stop asking how much technology can we put into the guest journey and more like where is technology being used to remove friction and
Yeah.
create space and calm for a better guest experience.
What a roundup. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Claude.
Yeah.
I'm getting good. I'm getting good now with Claude. It's keeping me on the straight and narrow.
I love that. Well, what I was going to say was my initial, and this is completely truthful here, my
Mm.
initial impression was there is, as I said at the very start, there is a bunch of contradictions here, that this is going to be a really interesting discussion on how these contradictions actually work together. And what I've almost immediately discovered, and I think you sort of said it yourself, is actually these contradictions, they almost match up
Yeah,
perfectly
yeah,
and they make
complement each
complete
other. Yeah,
sense.
yeah, they
Um,
do.
And I guess for any hotelier out there, the thing that I took, and it was one of your first points, was don't try and solve the complex. Get the basics done first, and then
Yeah,
deal with this complex stuff and go in with it. But
yeah,
I also think concentrate on what's, as you said, concentrate on what your guest is doing now, not what they were doing 10 years ago, not the
yeah,
historical stuff. Look
yeah,
at what the data's saying, and
yeah,
you'll always be ahead of the curve rather
yeah,
than being part of the pack, I suppose, or no,
yeah,
with the sheep. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But no, Danica, thank you so much yet again for giving us your insight, giving us your expertise, giving us an insight into that data that we all love. It's a great, and I know that obviously you've got an incredibly busy schedule, so I really appreciate your time. Episode 3 of the check-in series is done.
Thanks, Tom. I can't wait for Q4.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to say a massive thank you to all of you for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video. Let us know your comments in the comments section down below. Let us know what you're doing or what you're seeing in terms of trends, or as Danica said, what that conversion looks like in
Mm.
some of the points that we've mentioned today. Finally, of course, we bring you content every single week with fantastic guests just like Danica. And to do that, we need a brilliant community around us. So please don't forget, click the subscribe button, join the community, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.